Good day and welcome back to In the Real. I am your host, Eric. Well, I'm actually on quite a roll here on getting posts up. Yay. Well, we've had quite a few things happening these, last week or so. Had a bit of a heat wave up here in the northern regions of the U.S. Wonderful warm weather, and now we're coming into the weekend, and it's a bunch of rain. Isn't that great? Well, that's all right. I got plenty to do inside. Hopefully you do as well. Be able to enjoy your time wherever you are, inside or outside, weather-wise. Well, let's talk about a few things. I guess that big brewer, Anheuser-Busch, isn't doing too well again. I saw a commercial just by accident on probably on a social media thing somewhere. I really don't remember where I saw it. I was just on the internet and saw this commercial happening and looked at the date, and it seemed pretty new. Within the last few days, maybe like June 22 or something like that. The commercial itself looked just whatever, fine. There was really nothing that was a problem in the commercial. I think the big issue is what has happened in the past and how people feel about that. And they're not going to let it go. Now, that's just the way life is. You can't blame this company for trying to make a reasonable effort right now, and hoping everything just kind of goes away and people just start returning to a typical way in life for these products. But I think the problem is that you've done damage. You've hurt people. You've offended some people. You've slapped some people in the face. You've been a little bit rude, and you've had a representative of your organization come out and say some things that weren't very positive, that were very divisive. Divisive? They were well divided. How about that? Now I understand this person is no longer with the organization, and I don't remember her name, but I'm sure if any of you have kept up with what's going on, you know who I'm talking about. I'm not trying to throw her under any bus either. I think that she did more of a disservice than anything, and can't say she was intending to do that, but when you're thinking along one line of where you want things to go, you're probably going to say things right around that line, and you're not going to look at a big picture. And I don't think somebody that is in a position to make decisions about a company's direction and their products should be thinking along one line. That's not good business. Whether Anheuser-Busch wants to admit it or not, I think they just have to come right out and do a public apology, something live. Just come straight out and I'll even give you the words. How about something like this? We wanted to reach out to our customer base. Whether you consider yourself a current customer or a former customer, we want to pass along a message. We want to extend an apology for our previous conduct as an organization. So we had some representatives that weren't delivering a clear message, and it really came off in a poor light. We're not trying to exclude anybody from our product, and our advertisement needs to reflect that better, and we are taking measures to ensure that. We failed in the past. We have to accept that responsibility. and we have to earn your business back. So please understand, moving forward, we are not going to get involved in political debates on lifestyle choices, lifestyle events. You could probably skip those parts. Just ended at we're not going to get involved with political aspects to life. We are going to stick to brewing good beer, presenting our products at a good, fair price, and hope that we can join you in your celebrations in the future through our products. And we will continue to improve the best that we can. But it's time for us to get back to work on doing that, and we hope that you join us. Thank you for hearing our apology, and may us all live together in harmony on this great earth. You know, if you do something like that, skip religion, skip all the garbage, make an emphasis in saying, you know, we try to be inclusive with things, and it seems to be more dividing than helpful. And so moving forward, we're not getting involved with this. We are going to work on hiring people that are qualified for the job, that can see the direction in which our business needs to go for our customers of all types and so forth, you know. And I'm no marketing person. I don't have a business like this to speak from. So maybe what I'm saying is just not a good idea, but I don't see any other way around this. I mean, I've said it before. I don't know if I don't think I published that particular episode that I recorded. It was a little. There wasn't anything bad in it. I just didn't want to. I wasn't as careful as I'm being right now with saying business names and whatnot. And YouTube has gotten their drawers in a bunch recently, and I just don't want to get involved with that garbage either. But I mentioned that if you wanted to be inclusive of a particular demographic that you feel has been less than represented in, you know, your advertisements, you need to be subtle about it, because you've already got a precedent set. And taking Anheuser-Busch and their Bud Light product as an example, you had a precedent set already as this king of beers and an American icon thing, and the things that make that rooted, you had going on. And if you wanted to branch out to include a demographic that is a fraction of the population, you needed to bring that in carefully. And I've said it before, I don't think anybody has any problems with the person that was utilized in the March Madness advertisement, that particular influencer. I think nobody cares about that person. They don't matter. But what matters is the message that was taken. You know, you send a commemorative can, I'll call it, that is celebrating this 1 year event of something that a lot of people disagree with, that are probably in your demographic or your the current customer base of that time, and that is probably what didn't go over very well. That's probably where the biggest mistake was. And then to try to advertise with this person strictly in this way was a mistake as well. I don't know the numbers. I'm going to be very honest with you, but let's just give it a number of 1 compared to the other 99% of the population. You've got 1% to 99. And when you just give a commercial, an advertisement to this 1%, what about the other 99? The people that have been purchasing your product, that doesn't represent anything about them. and they're going to look at it that way, whether it's right or wrong, good or bad, or you like it or not. So had you did a typical commercial that you normally have been doing, maybe you tried it later on with some country music and so forth, but if you had kept that in kind of just a way in a bar setting, country music in the background, March Madness, the basketball game starting to play, and your standard or your typical consumer base that existed at the time, and had this person in the shot somewhere looking at the camera and just shooting a wave like I'm here too, I think people would have just been like, oh wow, they put this person there, okay. And that would have been where it got left. I don't think anybody would have cared anything beyond that. Most people probably wouldn't have even known who that was. Okay, until, I'll be honest, until this situation arose, and I started like, really, what's going on with this this brewing company? And then I found all the history about it. I'm like, oh my gosh, who is this person and what are they doing? And then I started seeing information about this person, started doing a little bit of research, and I was like, okay. Otherwise, I didn't know. And I'll be honest, I don't pay attention to any of that stuff. I'm on my own business in the world. Live how you want to live, do what you want to do. I don't care. And I think that's where most people stand. It's when you're, getting it shoved in your face. The phrase "shoved down your throat's" been happening a lot, and I know this. They call it the June. What is it? Pride Month, Gay Pride Month, or something like that. I don't think it's even a good idea to have that anymore. With all the decorations and the flags flying in and all this stuff. I never thought it was a good idea years ago. The first time it happened, I'm like, really? We're going to do this for a month? Why? I didn't understand why. I still don't understand why. I could see where there was a point of, hey, we need to get this acceptance out that this is the way some people live their life. Okay, that's done. Nobody cares anymore. You don't need this. It never should have been a month of celebration for anything. There's nothing to celebrate. Okay, if you have pride for living your life that way, good for you. Keep it. It belongs to you. I don't care. I've never cared about that, and I never will. I have my own life to live, which involves its own problems, and everybody else has the same thing. And it just needs to be left at that. We have things that we celebrate that have been ingrained for a long, long time ago. And why do we need to add things to it that are more of a social thing? We don't need that. It's just weird. Unnecessary is probably a better word than weird. I mean, if you want to, you could almost make a big deal out of anything in that way, It's coming to mind only because of the icons of America kind of thing. We could make, August or September, whatever, Harley Davidson month, because it's been it used to be an American company, and it was a staple in America. It was a big deal, and there were people that chose to live their life in this biker style kind of way, and now they're shunned. I mean, we could make that, for the month of August. But why? Just so people recognize them? Do they need to be recognized for that lifestyle before? And I make the same argument for Gay Pride Month. It's unnecessary to have this month dedicated to one's personal life. So yeah, I think it needs to be gone away. Hey, you want to have a spontaneous celebration over a weekend during the summer? Hey, go ahead. That way you can get some, some advertisers, some sponsorship. hey, we're doing a parade for this whatever, and there it be, and have good taste about it. And I'm telling you now, they used to be called drag queens and transvestites and stuff like that. Don't overdo your outfits. Keep it classy, and people will complain less about it. Well, it just is what it is. I walk around my house and I don't wear anything, but my windows aren't wide open so people can see me through the windows, because that would be rude. Yes, I could argue, don't look at my windows, but it doesn't mean it's not going to catch people's attention. And just because I'm comfortable doing that in my own house doesn't mean I should do that outside of my house. Just use your head. We don't have to have these extremes all the time, trying to scream and holler, look at me, I represent whatever. You don't need to do that. Okay, I think we're living in a pretty good society where almost anything is acceptable. Lifestyle that you choose to live, as long as you're not making people uncomfortable by your appearance, I don't think anybody cares. Really don't. So and don't be unrealistic. You're still going to get judged by people, no matter what you do. So deal with it. Just let it go. Move forward. Yeah, we all have the same rights. Nobody has any special ones. So let's quit making special things for people. Well, it's enough about that. Disney. I'm not going to talk about my Disney trip here, so don't touch that dial. Old school radio thing there. Disney has fired, or somebody quit, or they let them go, however you want to word that, some diversity person. And I've heard about that in the Anheuser-Busch thing too. This maybe that wasn't that business. Maybe it was another business. Maybe it was Target. Yeah, it was Target. The Red Bullseye store. It is so weird to hear that there's this executive diversity person. It's like, what do they do? I don't know what they do, and honestly I don't want to know. I don't care. It will make no sense to me when you start saying, well, they're there to ensure that the company or organization is being diverse in their hiring practices or their products or whatnot. It's like, I'm sorry, if you're a pencil making company, you don't need to make the pencils painted in different colors for them to write differently for different people. It's got lead in it, it writes, it sharpens, leave it alone. I don't need somebody to tell me that the yellow pencil is misrepresenting any kind of people. No, go away. Stop making a big deal out of stuff. So I don't know what these people are there for. I really don't. And if it's to ensure the hiring practices are fair, well, the fairness comes down to the qualifying aspects to the job that needs to be done. That's what's fair. Every opportunity to get those qualifications is available to everybody. And if you're starting out at 5 years old, doing improper things and like vandalizing neighborhood stuff at 5, and then you get to 10 and start really making it a bigger problem, and by the time you're 18 and 21 you've been in juvie a couple times, well, you've kind of screwed yourself out of your own opportunities. Nobody did that to you. Okay, and now I'll understand bad parenting might exist for you. And well, blame your parents. Stop blaming everybody else. That's as far as you get to blame. Your parents for either failing you or not being available to you. That's about as far as it goes. It is not your neighbor's fault, society's fault, the community's fault, my fault, anybody else's fault. You get to blame your parents, and that's it. So, yeah. So when I speak from every opportunity is available to everybody, that's what I'm talking about. There's no reason other than yourself from getting the qualifications to do a job you want to do. So when it comes down to hiring you for, let's say, talent acquisition for movies, you need to find the people in that you feel can do the best job executing what you want to execute. It doesn't matter about any other aspect other than their capabilities and their skills. Maybe judge them on their character. Let go of their ethnic background. Because if you check all those boxes and they don't even know what they're doing, that's a problem. We've seen that with this submarine thing. I'm not going to say that was all the situation, but of course it existed in that situation. There's been an interview about that. We'll get into those details a little bit later, but we'll stick to the Disney thing right now. So they let go this diversity person, and it has to do, there's some ties there with the, I don't know, last 4 or 5 movies that have come out and been complete failures. If that's what they were pushing to make sure there was diversity in the movies, then you're taking things away from somebody's story. If you're going to tell a story about ethnic backgrounds, sexual preferences, and lifestyle choices and all that, well, then make the movie about that. If it's not about that, those things don't need to be part of it. Okay, there was one of the cartoons that recently came out. I'm not going to go see them because the stuff that was promoted about them just shuts me off right there. If you're going to tell me that there's an actor or actress that is the first non-binary thing, I'm not going to see it. Done. I don't care. That shouldn't even be a point. None of that should be brought to anybody's attention for any reason. Their name matters and the role they played. That's it. If it needs to be about any of that other garbage, then you're not focusing on making a product to entertain me with. If you're a movie business, that's just the bottom line for me. You need to get past it. Make the product. Support your product. Don't worry about this other garbage. It will fall into place. If the story involves it for some reason, then it does. There was a movie put out a while back. I think, let me remember it correctly. Tom Hanks was in it. It was called Philadelphia. And it had to do about a social situation going on in the world about HIV and AIDS and so forth. And I believe his character was homosexual. And I've probably seen this movie once, maybe twice, well over several decades ago. And I don't ever recall in the movie it being a point made about his sexual preferences for his lifestyle, the character that is. You could have said it was assumed, but I think the movie was surrounding the fact that people didn't really understand HIV or AIDS and really treated people poorly that may or may not have had it because they made the assumptions that they may or may not have been homosexual. And that was part of the movie. But it wasn't thrown in your face. And it made it a good movie. Now, if you're going to tell me The Little Mermaid has to be a certain color and that she has to take a particular social stance as being a strong woman in America today or in the world today, you've taken the fantasy of a cartoon and destroyed it to make it into a live action. There was nothing wrong with the original story. It was fictitious. So leave it. Now, if you're going to rewrite the whole thing, then okay, rewrite the whole thing, but then you have to check all these boxes for everything else. I mean, come on. That's where things are going to go wrong. That you're pandering to things. And yeah, some people could look at it, and I'm even telling you this and arguing that side of the fence. Hey, they just rewrote the story and changed some stuff about it. Yeah, okay. Well, when you're remaking so many movies because you don't have any original ideas, because everybody's afraid that people are going to get offended, so you're trying to pander to everybody and save everybody's from their hurt feelings, then you're going to keep going down bad roads. You just are. We have to stop this position, in my opinion, in the whole world, that we're all responsible for everybody else's feelings. I'm not saying go out and be a jerk to people. There's no reason to be rude, but we are human beings. We have senses of humor that are different from everybody else's. We all have perspectives that are different from everybody else's based on our upbringing and what we think and what we believe and what our opinions are. And believe it or not, they're going to rub somebody wrong. Well, we communicate because we're human beings. We should be able to talk about those things. You should actually be happy if you're offended by something, because that means something to you. But you shouldn't hold them accountable. The person who is, quote unquote, offending you. They're not offending you. You're offended by what it is you're hearing or you're observing based on your belief system. And you might be right, but you also could be wrong. And it doesn't make them right or wrong either. If you're offended by something, you take offense to something, why don't you just think about the situation a little bit and try to come up with something to work with around it? Maybe it's actually something getting put into your face to think about enough to go, maybe I've got a bad perspective on this. Why does that bother me this way? That's what you should be doing. That's self-improvement. You may not come down to agreeing with that or even changing your perspective, but maybe, just maybe, you'll take that opportunity and you will then find some understanding in the other side of it. And it won't have to be offensive to you anymore. They can just be, maybe that's the other side of it. Well, not my thing. Okay, move forward. The most offensive joke you could come up with, I'm going to find funny. And it's because it's a joke. It's intended to be funny. So, the only thing that offends me is stupidity. And we're surrounded by that every day, all day. So, I'm never going to escape that. But yeah, so Disney, unfortunately, you've been pumping out some bad movies in the eyes of a lot of people, and I don't think you should replace this person. I think it's time to let that diversity position go. If you really need somebody to fill it, you want to put a name in there, somebody to point a finger to, I'll take it. I can tell you no all day long. Oh, that's what this is about? Wait a minute. What, did you say it had something to do with that? No, try again. Get it out of there. Don't bother with it. If you're going to emphasize that, no go. Leave it alone. I can do that for you. Probably at a fraction of the cost that person was getting too. But yeah, that's my thoughts. And the Bullseye store, you should probably get rid of your diversity person too that you don't need. And all these, there's some score to that nowadays, some diversity score. You know what? Scratch it off your books and say we're not even going to focus on that anymore. Get rid of it. That's what it'll take, is a business to stand up and go, we're not even going to participate in this anymore. This is ridiculous. We're going to hire people based on their skill set and their capabilities. And if we think this person might have enough of the skills we want and perhaps some room to grow and, form with our company and have new eyes, that's what we're going to do. That's it. That would make more sense. Just an idea. If we all want to be equal and be treated the same, then quit dividing ourselves. It's odd. We'll all stand up and say that. I just wanted to be treated the same. But give me my special month. And hire me based on my skin colors. and where I came from and what my personal lifestyle preferences are. It's like, why? If you wanted to be equal, you better scratch all that off. And don't be upset when people treat you like anybody else. Yeah. Kind of a weird scenario there. So yeah, good luck there, Disney, and I hope things start getting better in the world. You know, I've been watching movies actually from, gosh, I have this big box of DVDs I've had for obviously a number of decades, and I've been watching those. I'd rather rewatch some horrible old movies than any of the new stuff that comes out, because I am just so sick of this pandering and pushing of personal things that people think the whole world is about, and there's like 8 people, and I know that's a fictitious number to throw out there, but yeah, it's just not entertaining. I want to be entertained. I don't want to hear crap. I just want to be entertained. That's it. Otherwise, I've got no reason to watch it. But that's me. You know. So, yeah. Moving on. Well, we mentioned I think it was called the Titan, the submersible. It's not a submarine. I'll probably even call it that a couple of times myself. It's a submersible. A lot of stuff been going on around about that. And today we found out, at least I had heard, through this guy. His name is Jeremy from The Quartering, another YouTube channel, and he's got a couple other things going on. Check him out. I think he's just reading stories that he finds and information. He'll interject his perspectives, but he's pretty middle ground. When you say somebody's middle ground, they're not dead center. There's a tolerance left and right of everything like that. So, and I'm just like that too. Bounce around in the middle of stuff. I've got my opinions about things, and as I'm talking to you here, some of it comes up, and I don't intend to press upon you that this is right. That's not what I'm saying at all. I'm just trying to explain why I have my perspective, and sometimes I say what it is just to make the understanding as to why I'm saying what I'm saying. I hope people take it that way. So the submersible, I gotta tell you, people were hammering on these rich people. Good, they're getting off. That's just rude. These are human beings. Yeah, they paid a lot of money and they have a lot of money, but they're still taking advantage of an exploration opportunity, and that requires some risk. It does. Now, when you don't take all the safety measures necessary, and when you don't appropriately deal with your equipment to ensure the utmost amount of safety precautions are being made, and you're not listening to experts, then you're taking some unnecessary risks. Undoubtedly, there were going to be risks, but the things that we've been learning, one of the things, the CEO that also perished in the situation, an interview that was out there, he was quoted in saying he didn't want to hire 50-year-old white guys because they weren't, and his wordings were saying they wouldn't inspire young people to want to get involved with oceanography or this hydrotechnology stuff. So he wanted to hire younger people, and it was along the diversity thing. That's kind of what I was hinting to earlier. And what that tells me is you're not hiring the best people available to accomplish what you wanted to accomplish. You were more concerned with somebody's age, and obviously that makes them young, and perhaps some other backgrounds that are more genetic and whatnot. And I don't know the people that were involved. I really don't. But the way things are right now, the outcome that's happened, it looks like you could have replaced your entire team with 50% of the old 50-year-old white males that knew what they were doing, and you'd have been alive today. And yeah, this is Monday morning quarterbacking after the fact thing, but there were a lot of opportunities in there that people could have said something like, hey, I don't think this is a good idea. Hey, this doesn't have any kind of a safety rating, this part that we're using. Hey, I don't think this is the best way to go about, developing this fuselage. I mean, there was a lot of opportunity, I'm sure, for things like that to come across. Or, hey, we've got this put together, but now we got to figure out how to do this differently with this not being here, kind of thing. Hey, more power to you using a game controller to drive the thing. But I don't think those game controllers were ever designed to work at 12,000 feet underwater. That's a lot of pressure. I don't know how it would affect the controller, but that's something you probably should have determined beforehand. So some information that I've heard, I don't know what the facts are. I'm encouraging you to look this stuff up, find information on your own. Don't just listen to YouTube stuff because you're depending on somebody else doing this research for you. The best I've heard so far is that this thing dove one other time, or it's possible it was never submerged. So I don't know if maybe a combination of that is the facts. Maybe it was submerged to a certain depth, but not as deep as they went this time. So that's a question. That right there, that's your main thing. You're in a tube that has your life, and you're going under a bunch of water that will crush things. And you want to make sure that's perfect. That's where the experts come into play. The director of Titanic, James Cameron, he's gone down there like 30 some times. You think he might have something to say, and apparently he knew Monday morning that this thing imploded, and we were all kind of just dragged along. And the Navy had heard it. So here's the interesting part. When I first heard about this, my opinion was, well, there's a couple things that happened. They lost contact. Well, there's two reasons that I can think of that would cause that to happen. One, they lost power. Why? Well, maybe something failed under the pressure, and that's just not coming back now. Or it crushed. And of course, you would lose communication. That's that. You got two choices right there. And depending on the vessel, not knowing enough about it or anything, this was when it first started coming up. I think it was like Monday or Tuesday when I first heard about it. That was my opinion. I said, and if it didn't crush, or in this case implode is what they're describing it, then if it continues to sink and it doesn't ever surface, is it going to be able to take that pressure down there? And how long is it going to be able to take that pressure? What if they land on the ship and something hits it just right and that just weakens it? I mean, there are so many things here that are going to end up being, this thing's just going to crush. That was my opinion. And as it turns out, it did crush. That was the reason why they lost communication. So the facts that I have found recently is, so the Titanic is about 12,500 feet down, probably some change in there too. And this submersible catastrophically failed at 3,500 feet. It wasn't even close to the Titanic yet. It wasn't even halfway down. So then that comes back to the other information that I had possibly found out that it either dove one other time successfully, and then to what depth I don't know, or this was the first time it was ever getting submerged. And that information I think is going to be vital to what level of irresponsible conduct we're at here. I mean, there's enough of it already there. It's just how much further is this going to go, and it is unfortunate. There was 5 people there that lost their lives that were excited to go see something that most of us are never going to see in person, and in an environment that most of us are never going to get to. That's great. I'm going to tell you now, if Elon Musk called me up, came to my house, probably came to my house, I'm not answering phone calls anyway, and said, hey, you want to ride on my rocket? I'm asking questions. The answer is yes, but I still want to know it's safe before I climb aboard that big bomb that's going to get controlled to go to space. But I'm going. I'm not going to say no to that. Now, if he asks me the same thing but wants to go underwater, I'm going to go, I just don't see that being worth the attempt. Not that it wouldn't be great. I guess I don't want to say my interests are lower there, because it'd still be incredible to go see the bottom of the ocean somewhere. It might not be that exciting to see, but it'd still be kind of cool, but it's let's not lose our humanity, people. These people were successful in their lives, and that's why they had a bunch of money. Don't hate them for that. If you had those opportunities and got to that point, you wouldn't want somebody just hating you. And if you think you'd be this stellar person and going, I would have helped so many people and gave my money away, you don't know what you're talking about. You just don't. You think they don't help people? And this whole BS that they don't pay tax, they pay more taxes in 1 year than you'll ever pay in your life. Okay, end of story. Just the government, the politicians, I shouldn't say the government, the politicians want to keep you in this blind state that abortion stuff matters, which it doesn't. That's a personal thing. So just end it right there and leave it alone. But as long as you argue about it in a big stage, it keeps you distracted from what they really want to be doing. So knock it off. Leave it exist. Forget about it. What's another one now? It's just on top of my head. The taxing the rich kind of thing. They are paying taxes. They're not getting away from not paying them. But as long as you're yiping and griping and hooting and hollering about that stuff, you never see really what they're getting away with on, reducing that. You just leave it be. You pay attention to what's there and just ask questions. Look at that January 6th thing that took place. There are so much behind the scene things that took place, and you only hear bits and pieces of it that speak to a narrative. You have to be careful about that. If you do a bunch of research behind that, you're going to find the narrative is not really what took place. Yeah. There was some bad stuff that happened, but it was not encouraged by any particular people. Now, you could say it was permitted by some, but it might not be who you think. Yeah. Stop listening to the Twitter news and the Instagram news and Facebook news. That's not news, people. And just because somebody you know and heard of looked it up and said, this is what happened, that doesn't mean it's accurate either. Hell, look it up for me too. I don't listen to the stuff I'm saying. I'm just telling you there are things you may be wrong about. So you should dig a little deeper, and I encourage you. I can't encourage you enough. Look at the other side of where you want it to be, because that's where the real information probably is. Global warming. There's another one. That, you know what? I can answer that question for you right now. Is our climate changing? Yeah, it's always changing. That's the nature of our planet. That's why our planet doesn't have the scarring on the surface like the moon does, because our environment changes constantly. This planet's been frozen and burned off several times. The last time it was frozen, guess what? We've been thawing out. Yes, the temperature's going to go up. How high? Nobody knows. How long? Don't know. What's the true effects? Not that big a deal. Okay. What about all the flooding that's going to take place? Well, who says people should be living there anyway? Just because we're here, we're not the primo people on which the world is supposed to cater to. We're along for the ride too. All right. So relax. If we stop focusing on this garbage in the world and actually focus on reality, education, solid information, that's what's going to matter. So yeah, enough of the high horse garbage. Yeah, so the submarine thing, it's a tragedy. I hope that they do a recovery and they are able to get all the pieces that they can find, and they investigate and determine where the failure happened and what really caused it. I mean, at least we can learn something from it. That would be important. Yeah, it is unfortunate. So I started hinting on this. I may have said it enough, maybe not, but the Navy heard the implosion on Sunday, and they alerted everybody what they heard in the vicinity with the equipment that they have, and it was definitely determined at that point, well, preemptively determined, you could say, that there was a catastrophic failure, and then they just had to find it. And unfortunately, our news outlets strung it along as if there was going to be something of a better outcome, which is unfortunate. It's really sad, because that's just for ratings. But again, that's the business that they're in. That's unfortunate, but it is what it is. Yeah. So don't hate on them. There was a young boy, or a teenager, young adult, you could call him. He was down there. Reluctantly, as a matter of fact, as we're hearing now, and it's unreal. So, yeah, where do we go from here, huh? I'm gonna page down the old internet thing here. Tucker Carlson has had something else out this week. Listen to that a little bit. Here's a thing that's being overlooked, and you're being blinded by other stupidity. Hunter Biden, I think his name is. This guy has done some very criminal things, and yet to be investigated, to have any legal ramifications come up. That's a problem, folks. This is what you should be upset about. I'm going to bring in President 45 here, so hold on to your boots. I don't care if you like or dislike President Trump, or currently former President Trump. Okay. I'm not a Trump supporter. There's stuff about him I just don't know, and I don't know the guy. How is the country being run? Well, from a business perspective, I don't think he did that bad. On perspective on representation, probably could have did better. Well, look what we have now. Very poor representation too, and a poor run country. So look at both sides. Okay, I'm not a Biden supporter either. I think all of our recent options have been worse than the past options, which haven't been good either. In my personal opinion, I've always said anybody who wants to be president probably shouldn't be president, because there's a problem with you. You should not want that job. How many of these presidents do you need to see to understand how stressful that job is. And you're not getting paid garbage for it. And somehow they walk out of there millionaires and billionaires. Like, you have to wonder why that is. They weren't there to get that position in society. They were there to run a country, public service. So you see, you need to question those things. Even if it's the guy you want there, you need to question those things. Okay? And that's the biggest problem I have with people that are just hounding our former president. They're not hounding the current one. You should be just as upset as the things happening that are wrong. They're wrong because they're wrong for everybody. And if you're okay with skyrocketing food prices and whatnot, good for you. But that doesn't mean everybody else is, and that shouldn't have to happen for anything. No matter who's there. So stop blinding yourself and harping on one side or the other. If it's bad for the other side, then it should be bad for your side. If you can't accept that, you don't need to be having an opinion for the public. But that's what happens way too often. People just, enough of that junk. But because all that stuff is happening, there are high-level criminals getting away with things. Things are not being done as they should. Let me tell you that the branches of our government are supposed to have some independencies so that they're not controlled by the higher marks. Do you want the FBI to go after the President of the United States? Any President of the United States? And if your opinion is going to be, well, if they're breaking the law, then look at the one that's currently there. There's been some things that are considered criminal by their actions, and yet nothing's been done. Well, why? Sure are going after previous one, but if you go back several, there's probably a lot of stuff in a lot of previous presidents that are not good, that should have been gone after. See, that's where you're starting to lose things. So, yeah, consider that. So, yeah, Mr. Hunter Biden probably needs to be arrested, needs to be questioned. There needs to be investigations happening. All that stuff should be taking place. But as soon as they go down that rabbit hole, guess what? Joey comes into play too. Because some of the accusations that are going on involve him. So when you start investigating some of it, that's going to come into play. And so far, that isn't happening. Not a good situation. That's bad. Bad for everybody. You know what? If you voted for this person to be there, it's your fault. Nobody ever looks at it that way. It's your fault for the good stuff and the bad stuff. And if that person is an embarrassment, you shouldn't want them there, even if you made the mistake of thinking they were a good idea. You should be putting your foot down too, as a voter and a citizen of this country, going, maybe this needs to not happen anymore. But I guess that's not where we go. So yeah, Tucker was talking a lot about that. You should go listen to his information and his questions. He's got some good questions. I don't follow politics enough. So, that video game, I think I'll get the name right here. Call of Duty. I don't play that game or games like it, I guess. I'll play Pac-Man on Google, so that's good enough for me. I'll play pinball machines. Love old school pinball machines. A lot of fun. But this stuff, don't need it. It's beyond. I used to play the Madden games. Those were fun, and the reason why they were fun is because they were video games. Now they look so real. You took the video game out of it. Just leave it be a video game, you know? Mario Brothers, Super Mario Brothers. Give me those old school games. It's a character that's pixelated, good enough. That's a video game. So yeah. So yeah, that video game is apparently seeing some heat now because of something that I'm not even sure what happened there. To be honest with you, I'm the only thing that I know of is a particular gamer that is well known made some comment of leave the children alone or something like that, but I don't know what he was referring to in his statement. So previously, whatever took place, I have no idea. But that kind of started the heat, and now everybody's mad at the gaming people. So yeah, it's strange and interesting. So yeah, check that out and see what you can find out about that. If you're a gamer, perhaps you can shed some light on it, because that's just not something I do. So I'm speaking poorly to it. I'm doing a bad job here. Well, all right. I think I've spoken long enough. I keep making these things about an hour long, and I get to rambling as I do. But it's the weekend. It's a good time. We're coming to the midpoint of the year. We've already started our summer months officially, and it's the countdown of daylight hours, moving into the shorter, depressing days. But got some beautiful weather coming up, I'm sure, in the next couple of months before those depressing days happen. And so get out, enjoy yourself, be safe, let people live, be happy, and you do the same for yourself. Do some research, learn some stuff, people. Learn some history. Get a real history book. Get a couple of them. Learn about it. I appreciate you taking the time and listening to my ramblings. I always am happy when people listen to my commentary. I'm encouraging some comments about topics to talk about. If I have to look it up or research it or try to find information, I'll try to form an opinion about it. If it's not something I typically would pay attention to, by all means, leave it in the comments. I'll take a look at it. Speaking of the comments, as I always say, don't be an a-hole. I'm the only a-hole on this channel. That's more than enough. Be constructive in your commentary, and just be positive. Yeah. So I appreciate your time. Best wishes. Be happy. And until the next time, I'm Eric within the Real. See you soon.